Welcome to Mr. Podcast with Claude.
And Justin.
Hello, everybody. We are back with our Dear Holmes Mystery by Mail series, covering the November 2022 mystery. We've got the final solution, the final answer to the mystery of the purloined astrolabe.
Indeed we
Um,
do. Indeed we do.
is
And
is
do not worry, your calendars are correct. Although this is the November mystery, we are indeed solving this in January of 2023. Oh well, that's how it
That's how it
goes.
goes. That's how it goes. Yeah, so is Finnegan kaput, or is the constable a collaborator? Are the professors, what's a P word?
um uh
Guilty? Is the charwoman in trouble? Um, I like to torture a pod as much as
yeah, I
possible.
can see. Not
Is
really.
the um is the chimney sweep all covered in crime dust?
Crime
All
spelled
of
with a
these.
CH.
Thank you. All of these mysteries and more should be answered in this um, letter from everyone's favorite consulting detective.
Famous favorite, famous favorite, famous, and famous favorite.
Absolutely.
Those are
All
two
right,
different things, right?
it's taken 2 months to get to this point. For whatever reason, the service is slow slash the USPS is slow, but we do have this. We have not read this letter yet, so
This is going to be new to us. We will learn as you learn, dear listener.
it's called communal learning.
Yeah, do you like to
And
learn together?
yes,
Because that's what we're going to do.
co-learning. Let's all co-learn together.
Co-learn, co-learn. Let us co-learn.
Hmm. All right, Justin, take it away,
Shall I begin? All right. So I
please.
guess we're going to read this thing and bada bing bada boom, and then we're going to discuss.
Hey, sounds like a plan.
All right. So at the top we have a bird and we have ratio vero, which I'm sure is the perfect pronunciation. And it means something like reason rules, right? You looked that up. So I'll credit
Yes,
you
I
for that.
did.
Good job. Research. Okay. Sherlock Holmes, 221 B, Baker Street, London, England, 8 May 1895. Only a few days after the last letter. All right. And this letter is addressed to Mr. Finnegan. Dear Mr. Finnegan, here we go. This evening, I completed my inquiry into the problem of the stolen astrolabe and presented my findings to the constabulary. Oh boy, never a paragon of efficiency. They were even more hesitant than usual to accept my findings in this matter for reasons that will be clear in a moment.
Please
Nevertheless,
wait.
Mr. Tierney assures me that your freedom will be restored in a day or so. In the interim, here are the circumstances that led to your detention and how I came to discover them. Wait, wait, don't you? Okay. From the instant I read your first letter, I knew that Moriarty would play a role in the solution. Oh, really? But until I had all of the facts at my disposal, I could not understand how. Your letter presented a few possible theories as to who was responsible. The first and most obvious concerned the charwoman, Elsie Northcott, who had discovered and reported the theft, but she had no discernible connection to Moriarty. Really? This is what it's okay. And every possible opportunity to pilfer the astrolabe at some more convenient time, uh, free of watchful eyes. Good point. We said that. There was also no sense in her making such a fuss upon discovering the crime if she were guilty.
Hmm.
The next theory was that one or both of your former colleagues, Mackin Butchert and Ken Gorwid, were responsible. They seemed unnervingly eager to deflect blame towards you. Their unusual wealth and penchant for Vice suggested that they may have been more familiar with your former employer than they were willing to admit. And their
What?
willingness, yeah, I know, right? That's like, wait, are you serious? And their willingness to leave Miss Northcott alone when a criminal was in the vicinity betrayed a disregard for the threat. My final
Okay.
suspicion was that you were guilty and that for amusement or to support your defense, you were playing me for a fool. Your description of the astrolabe, which you'd claimed only superficial knowledge of, was carefully detailed, almost covetous. Still, nothing was certain.
Hmm.
So, I wrote the constable in charge of the case, Bentley Sallow, requesting further information. Shortly afterwards, Sallow wrote back. He described that no finger marks or remnants of fabric had been found near the shattered display case, and that a small stone, brown speckled with verdigris, had been left in its place. He
Mhm.
also found soot marks in the vicinity. Sallow noted that he found this curious in light of a discrepancy in your interview. You had claimed that you hadn't been able to find work in months, yet, interviewing the local innkeeper, the constable had learned
Mhm.
that you'd been working steadily as a chimney sweep.
Uh-huh.
Sallow also shared with me that you'd caused quite a stir at Adelard the day before the theft. With his letter in hand, I. Really? Wait, what does that even mean? I don't remember that. Okay. With
The
his
letter
let
that Solo wrote to Sherlock? Is that what he's saying?
No, Sallow shared with me that you'd, meaning Finnegan, had caused quite a stir at Adelard the day before the theft. Like, really?
That's
Like,
when the tour was, but we never heard a stir. We
yeah, I
never heard.
know. I
I
know.
see what you're
Like,
saying. Okay, you're saying you're having an issue with that part. Okay, yeah,
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 I
yeah.
just,
So I
I
don't
don't,
know from Solo's letter that there was a disturbance.
yeah, I don't remember that ever being mentioned. So I'm just kind of like, okay, I need to look at letter two where it was
I
Sallow
guess that must
writing.
be yeah, we'll go back to that, but maybe he's saying because he did see Finnegan did see Mac and Ken there, right?
Is
And
that
was
the
trying to talk to
stir?
them. I guess that's
Okay.
quite a stir, but from his
Okay.
perspective, I guess.
Okay. That was just the first time I was like, what? Okay. With his letter in hand, I felt a growing sense that I needed a man I could trust to investigate on my behalf. So I dispatched Mr. Tierney to Cheshire. When I received the envelope with letters from him and yourself, I realized that I had overlooked a theory which cast Constable Sallow's letter in an entirely different light. Recounting your arrest, you had informed me that a copper locket had been found in your chamber with a small ruby enclosed, an elegant engraving, and a series of numbers scratched more crudely along its bottom. This brought to mind your description of Constable Sallow on the day he first took you to the station. He had been holding a cigarette case with numbers etched on its sides as well. I posit the constable purchased both that cigarette case and the locket used to support your arrest from Mr. Neil Rayburn, who he recently asked to, quote, engrave something for a sweetheart. The
Mhm.
case against Sallow suffered for a moment the same flaw as that against Miss Northcott. With full access to the university grounds, I could not understand why he would steal the astrolabe in such an indiscreet manner. Regardless, Mr. Tierney's interviews suggested he was worthy of further inspection. If, as my associate had discovered, Cheshire is now home to only one pawnbroker, Sallow too would have learned this when he, quote, visited them both, as he claimed. Mr. Rayburn proceeded to confirm Sallow's lie when he said that nobody had been in his shop since May the 1st. Again, not a great cause for alarm until reading the rest of Mr. Tierney's notes. Okay, I'm slightly confused, but let's go on.
Okay, me
Uh,
too.
um, his interviews with you and your former friend Mac convinced me of not only your innocence and that of Butchart and Gorwood, but also of Sallow's guilt. The information we found on your former colleague suggested that neither would have a motive to steal the astrolabe. And if you, Mr. Finnegan, were the thief, then why would you, already imprisoned, have agreed with this notion? Wait, what?
Oh, oh.
Wait, with what notion? Hold on, I lost.
Let's start again. Yeah.
Okay. His interviews with you and your former friend Matt convinced me of not only your innocence and that of Butchert and Gorwood, but also of Sallow's guilt. The information we found on your former colleagues suggested that neither would have a motive to steal the astrolabe, and if you, Mr. Finnegan, were the thief, then why would you, already imprisoned, have agreed with this notion? I still
The
don't get
notion
it.
that Finnegan is the thief?
Yeah, that can't be right. That doesn't make any
So he's
sense.
saying, my interviews with you and your former friend Matt convinced me not only that he's saying Finnegan's innocence and
Yeah.
Mac's innocence, but also Ken and wait,
Ken and Mac, right?
isn't
Isn't
Mac
Mac
one of
Mac is
the
Butcher, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a weird
Wait,
thing.
his interviews convinced of your innocence and that
So
of
he's just
Butcher.
saying, yeah, okay, yeah, it makes
Yeah.
sense. Okay, but so Max innocent, so Butcher, Gorwit, and Finnegan are innocent, but also of Solo's guilt. Okay, the
Yeah.
constable's guilt. The
Yeah.
information we found on your former colleague suggests that neither would have a motive to steal the astrolabe. Okay, and if you, Mr. Finnegan, were the thief, then why? If you were the thief, then why would you already in prison have agreed with this notion?
Maybe I need to read on. Maybe it'll make sense.
Okay.
I'm still lost, but here we go. Yes, you may have been attempting some sort of manipulation, but your final statements indicated that you were unaware of a large part of the constable's accusation, that you had allegedly left tracks in the atrium made of soot from your work as a chimney sweep. Your ignorance to this seems strange, and even stranger once I noticed that Sallow was the only one claiming he saw the soot marks. Knowing this, I hastily dispatched another trusted associate, Ned Loudy, to dig deeper. Only 2 days.
Let's get loudy over
Yeah,
here.
Loudy, Loudy. Okay.
Time to get loudy. There's your Elmore Leonard crime thriller. Get loudy. I love it. Loudy's on the case, digging deeper.
Get ready.
Yes.
Um, Only 2 days later, I received a letter from Mr. Loudy delivering the final piece of information I would need to call for Sallow's immediate arrest and your release from prison. Loudy's report, unbeknownst to him, indicated that Constable Bentley Sallow had lied on more than one occasion in his attempts to incriminate you for his own crimes and for what he believed was an underlying connection to Professor James Moriarty. By the time I was reading Loudy's letter, I had, as he predicted, learned of the rediscovered astrolabe. What I had not learned was that the constable himself had, quote, located it. More illuminating still were Laddie's exchanges with the staff at Adelard. And thus ends page 2.
Okay, am I reading now?
If you wish, I'll continue if you want.
Why don't you continue? Because I'm
Okay.
in my brain is trying to piece it all together.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I'm barely able to listen, so I need your brain. Okay.
Oh no.
The Chancellor, Gerald Tague, verified that Sallow was provided with the names of anticipated visitors, which would have made him aware of Mr. Finnegan's visit prior to the theft. Meanwhile, Butchard's statement suggested that Sallow himself had reminded the two Adelard professors of Finnegan's visit as he questioned them. Based on Butchard's comments, Sallow also lied about having heard nothing on the day of the crime. The charwoman's interview only added to the suspicion as her account of the incident made it clear that Sallow lied about, quote, no remnants of fabric having been left behind. This, I surmise, is because he tore the cuff of his shirt, breaking open the glass case. This
Mm-hmm.
too explains why Butchard and Gorwood found him, quote, fixated on his shirt sleeve on the day of the robbery, and why the constable initially accused you of tearing his cuff. Finally, Northcott's statements indicated that Sallow himself had, quote, discovered the piece of copper left in place of the astrolabe, yet according to Sallow's versions of the events, all parties had quickly noticed the stone. The bold thief was trying to slyly flaunt his own crimes before us all, as he did again when he planted the copper locket and, quote, ruby in your lodgings. Wow, I'm okay. I'm confused.
We're gonna have to read that paragraph again. There's a lot happening. There's a lot happening there. Yeah.
I became confident that he planted the locket shortly after reading Louty's interviews with Mr. Rayburn and Wicks. Mr. Rayburn, as I noted, revealed that Sal had visited him, and earlier in the week, when the constable had claimed, wait, not early, sorry, that Sallow had visited him not earlier in the week when the constable had claimed, but recently to request an engraving. Had Mr. Tierney visited, I should have checked that. Had Mr. Tierney visited the pawnbroker later in the day on May 4th, he might have learned of this visit. Okay. As for Mr. Wicks, he revealed that Sallow brought in, quote, a number of rubies. Also on May 4th, the morning before your arrest. This explains why Sallow failed to interrogate you, quote, at dawn, as he wrote that he would. More importantly, fuck. More importantly, it tells me he was in possession of the astrolabe's rubies, which had been pried off. His visit to Wicks was likely intended as a way of determining which, quote, ruby was worth the least and thereby most worthy of being relinquished as evidence against you. That's why he was so glad. Given all that Mr. Sallow knew and said about the both of you, about the
About
boat.
him and Finnegan, Sallow and Finnegan.
Oh, okay. Okay. I theorize that the man grew obsessed over time with finding a criminal connection between you and Moriarty. He was convinced that you had escaped justice and bitter to see you free. What?
Oh, I'm confused. So he's saying this is premeditated.
Uh yeah, definitely. Definitely. He knew he was coming, so I guess yeah, I guess he's saying he planned it
He
from
already knew who he was before he knew he was coming.
yeah.
And he's like, he didn't get enough justice. I'm gonna do this thing. Okay.
He was convinced you had escaped justice and bitter to see you free, and being able to cleverly profit from the ordeal would have only made it more enticing. Once, okay, that's a motive. Once he has been arrested, I expect it'll become easier to start dispelling the foul air around your reputation. Still, I understand there remains the issue of your present circumstances. I know that you are perilously low on funds, so I have forwarded some money to you for a train ticket to London. Though institutions of higher learning are obsessed with their own reputations, often at the expense of others, I hope to discuss some matters with you once you arrive. I cannot promise it will be a conventional form of employment, but I can assist you in finding a new career outside of manual labor. I know several men in need of an individual with your skills, all with no qualms about hiring someone with your unfortunate connection. My brother Mycroft's work for the government also requires a team of skillful mathematicians who advise on countless matters related to national security. We can discuss the matter in depth in person, but please bear in mind the confidential nature of this work. Refrain from discussing my offer to the public. I look forward to finally meeting you. My very best regards, Sherlock Holmes, consulting detective.
Wow.
All right. All
Well,
right.
okay. We got a complete Dear Holmes mystery here. Okay. So I it might be nice to just at some point and we can either start there, just talk about the experience overall before we get into what this letter said. Um,
Right,
because
because
I
that's
feel
a
like there's
whole
some
can of
parts we got to
worms.
reread.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
The first thing that just strikes me overall with this letter, though, in terms of the context of, the service, right, that we're reading letters from Sherlock Holmes and his contemporaries. Um, and maybe I'm just thinking of the Holmes interpretations I've seen in other things. But this last part where he offers him to help him find work seemed very un-Sherlock Holmes like.
Mm-hmm.
Um, i- did that come off weird to you? It was not just like, hey, let me solve this case and make sure you're not in prison, but also let me like go an extra step and get you a job.
Yeah.
I just thought that was actually surprising that he tried to make this guy's life better than he found him, which I feel like
Yeah.
isn't a thing I'm used to seeing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I agree.
Like,
It
he's
feels
gonna give
like
him time. He's gonna invite the guy to talk to, you know what I mean? It's like
mm-hmm.
one thing to be like, "Oh, I'll pass you along the Mycroft," but it's like, "I'm gonna meet you and we're gonna talk about this." Like, I'm like, "Really, Sherlock? Is this the Holmes?" Okay. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
that stood out to me just because it wasn't just solving the case. It was this extra bit about the personality of this Holmes here that we're reading.
Yeah, I mean, I think whoever wrote this felt like they needed to address the injustice that this guy like couldn't get a job,
Yeah.
for this like unfair reason. But yeah, it does seem like it involves because Sherlock's writing the letter, like the solution is gonna have to come through that letter. And yeah, like I don't
Even
know.
more than just they could have stopped with I once Swallow is arrested, it'll become easier to dispel the foul air around your reputation. And he could just say, I'm sure you'll be able to land a job in a few months or something. Like I expected them to leave it there versus going to the next step and like, I'm actually going to get you hired somewhere.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's interesting.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I mean, I'm not like deeply familiar with the Sherlock Holmes thing. I mean, I've seen like
Hmm.
various interpretations. But yeah, it does strike me as kind of weird and more like yeah, like closing the narrative than like something Sherlock Holmes would actually say.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Um, which is whatever. It's fine.
Yeah.
Um,
It's interesting.
so, I mean, we're gonna have to like go through some of these details a little more carefully, but
Mhm.
in general, I'll say that I think we got most of the clues here. Like, I remember
Yeah.
specifically talking about almost all these things that he pointed out.
Yeah, there's something big they left out, right? I mean, I hope I didn't miss it as I was trying to like listen to you, but I mean, I guess he has an answer for how the astrolabe the case got broken, right? And it's just right, like it wasn't the thing we thought where like Max Music
No,
was hit a note and it broke the thing and then it was just a crime
nope,
of opportunity. It
no,
was
no, no, no.
actually premeditated. He was
Yeah,
gonna steal this thing and pin it on Finnegan.
yeah, and that's
Uh
how he tore his cuff.
and so he's saying that he bought the brown rock with verdigris from the pawn shop. Did they say
Is that
that? I
what
forgot.
is that the answer?
I guess that's the question is why is the rock there? That was a question we had. Did he figure that out?
Like I as I was reading it, I thought they were revealing that like there never was a rock there. Am I wrong?
Okay.
That's
No,
what I started
I thought
thinking.
no, I thought they said there was a rock. Let me see. So bottom of page one looks like they're talking about. It says shortly afterwards, Sala wrote back. He described that no finger marks or remnants of fabric had been found in the shattered display case, and that a small stone brown speck with verdigris had been left in its place. He'd also found soot marks. Sala noted that he found this curious and like description of the interview. Let's see. Okay, we're talking about the work thing. Let's
I think there's
see.
another thing
Cigarette
about the
case. Yeah,
stone.
it comes back somewhere.
Let's
I
see.
think when he's talking about the um pawn shop.
Uh, let's see. Oh,
Oh, here we go. Norcott's statements indicated that Sala himself has discovered the piece of copper left in place of the astrolabe. So Norcott's statements indicated that he himself discovered it. Yet, according to Sala's version of events, all parties had quickly noticed the stone. The bold thief was trying to slyly flaunt his own crimes before us all, as he did again when he planted the copper locket and ruby in your lodgings. The bold thief was
okay.
trying to slyly flaunt his own crimes before us all by saying what? That by saying that he discovered the.
So I guess they're just saying he planted it. I still don't understand why. Like that thing is a weird element of the story. That's very confusing to me.
Let's see. Yeah, they say her account made it clear that Salo lied about no remnants of fabric having been left behind. Okay. he is because he tore the cuff on his shirt, breaking open the glass case. I guess with the rock. I mean, I guess it's just that simple. I think the problem is they kept describing it with interesting adjectives, and it made it seem like that was important.
Yeah.
If they just said, "Hey, there's a rock there," we wouldn't think about it. You know, we wouldn't looked up how
So it
vertebrae.
was you think it was used to break the thing after
Yeah,
all?
it was just
Okay.
used to break the thing. Yep.
Okay.
He
Okay.
didn't think to steal the key from, I
Right,
guess
right.
into whatever, but yeah, he just breaks it with the rock. And I guess, it's up to we can, we had an idea that he got it from the pawn shop because the guy sells stuff that's similar to that. And we
Right.
know Salo goes to the pawn shop. I guess Sherlock just isn't making that clear where he got the rock from.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Or that it was
I thought
even
there'd be
kind of
more detail about that.
yeah.
I'm surprised it's
Yeah.
just like
Yeah. I'm surprised in the letter it's not. It wasn't until then that I realized that Salo could have
mhm.
easily obtained the rock from the pawn shop where
Yeah.
the
Yeah, because it says he's flaunting his crimes before us all, as he did again when he planted the copper locket and ruby in your lodgings, you know? So it's like he's sort of implying that the origin of the
Mhm.
stone is the same as those things, which means like it's a thing he bought and then planted, you know? But he
Yeah.
isn't even quite saying that he used it to break the thing, even though that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely tore his cuff breaking it open. He would
Yeah.
have to break it open with something.
You don't think he just used his hand, like, with the cuff over his hand, and that's how he tore it? I don't know.
He would have cut his hand on the glass. There was so much glass everywhere. Remember? She was like, I've never
Oh my
seen so much
god.
glass. I think so. In terms of trying to, meta think about how do we solve this mystery with the details they give us, like we were off base with the music shattering the glass,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and that explaining why there was so much glass everywhere. So
It's a
that's an
lot
interesting thing to think
simpler.
about. It's just like, listen, somebody broke it with a rock.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
just glass everywhere. That's it. Like
yeah.
they were, she doth protest too much, I guess.
I
Like,
mean, we had that theory at a certain point. It just seemed
yeah,
too straightforward, so it seemed like there's gotta be more, and, like, all these other details that turned out to be red herrings, like,
that's
it seemed
talking
like we
about
had to
what.
incorporate all that.
Yeah, it's a good lesson on what to think about needs to be incorporated and what
Yeah.
could just be a red herring or just an over emphasis on something that doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, just a
verdigris,
weird
it was
detail.
brown speckled with verdigris. It's like, why say that? Why not say it was a brown stone? The end. We wouldn't have to
Yeah.
think about it.
Yeah, 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 it
Honestly,
made
I
us
like
seem
our version of the mystery better. I think it's more interesting, like this crime of opportunity, and this guy who like he wants to like figure out, I mean, he didn't underline it, I think, as much as our theory did, but Sherlock was basically saying that he, as constable, I guess he didn't think that Finnegan paid the price for his association with Moriarty. But what
mhm.
we went further and was like, oh, he's doing this because he wants to be, publicly
Oh, yeah, they don't even say that.
lauded.
Yeah.
His mentor or his boss like helped take down Moriarty. So he
Yeah.
hates it. He hates his academic this job at the university. He wants a better post. Like the stuff that we went to that I thought was like good character work.
Mhm.
They didn't really bring up here.
Yeah, 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 it didn't even seem to matter. It barely even explained what his motive is. It was like he wanted to pin this crime on this guy and earn a little money on the side, and,
And if
like,
he could
that's
earn
kinda
some money,
it.
yeah, and if he can earn some money, even better. But there wasn't a
Yeah.
yeah, there wasn't like a bigger goal. I mean, honestly, this begs the question, like, is this Sherlock Holmes letter correct? Is this actually what happened? Could Sherlock be wrong? Like, is this his surmisation, uh,
Surmisitude.
surmisington, of what happened? So I'm like, maybe he's missing some stuff. Like, Sherlock's been wrong before. So maybe there's a sixth letter, and he
Oh
goes,
god.
I would like to amend my previous
Let me
letter."
retract the following
Yeah.
statements. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're supposed to take it that way, but I mean, can I prove that he's right? I mean, no.
Mhm, mhm.
So, yeah, I mean, definitely our thing was more elaborate. I mean, we had this as a possibility. It's just, yeah, I don't know. I think it does kind of help a bit, like to it's like once we identify those key points, like discrepancies in time,
Yep.
like I didn't quite get. I got the like he said he was going at dawn, but he went in the evening. But I what I didn't do was say like, well, what was he doing in that time? You know,
Mhm. And
I
and
I,
what does Sherlock say? He was
I should have thought about that. Yeah, it's let's see. Uh as for Mr. Wicks, he revealed that Sallow brought in a number of rubies also on May 4th, the morning before your arrest. This explains why Sallow failed to interrogate Yuko at dawn, as he wrote he would. So I guess that's when the ruby thing happened, when he brought the rubies in to the jeweler.
at dawn.
Well, it says the morning, so I guess, yeah. At dawn or thereafter, but the point is he was occupied in the morning, so it doesn't quite explain what he did
Not
all
did
day.
interrogation and then go to the jeweler?
Like, it seems like he could have, but, not according to this.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, the rubies were, like, the biggest smoking gun, like, once that happened, it was like
Yeah.
a story where the constable's not involved is gonna be, like, really convoluted, you know?
Yeah.
And, based on this and the previous ones that we read, like, these answers are not, like, really complicated,
No,
like, it's
they're not.
it's it's
They're
really
not
just
like,
about.
"Oh, in the 3rd letter, in the 4th paragraph, the person misspelled the letter," or
Yeah.
like, "use this iambic pentameter, which means that they were the" Yeah, it's not super detailed,
Yeah, like, we noticed that cuff thing in the first letter, and we're like, "Okay, what's the deal with this?" And we noticed the engravings, right? The number
yeah,
engravings being in common between the locket and the cigarette case, and we thought, "That seems like it's implying a connection," I thought it was deeper. I thought there was some, like, extra thing going on there that would explain that, but it was just like, no, 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 no. That was just showing that it's the same person. That like that was another clue that tied it back to the constable. Like it
yeah,
wasn't some elaborate like, oh, the numbers mean blah blah. Like it didn't matter
yep.
at all what they were.
Yeah, and there wasn't, now did they say who the locket was for?
Who the locket was for? It seems like
His
he just planned to
sweetheart.
plant it. I think
But
that was a
he
lie.
but it wasn't like but it so it was, you think, an M for Moriarty. He
Oh
lied and
shit, I
said,
forgot about the M.
engrave it something for my sweetheart," but he really he put an M for the Moriarty thing, which makes sense.
Yeah,
It just said
yeah.
W for Wincott or whatever. It wasn't
Right.
like, "Oh, this is for my sweetheart, but now I'll use it for Finnegan, so let me turn it upside down," and then it's an M.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, Winnie, what's her name from Wales, didn't come up at all in this letter,
She
so
was the mastermind behind it all, and she was nice to him, so I'm like, "Oh, you're cheating on your husband, and now you're" yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, I was really suspicious of that character, like, even more so
Mhm.
than the charwoman, and yet,
Yeah,
like, the charwoman
yeah,
gets a whole paragraph here, whereas, like, she doesn't even merit a mention, so it's like,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
I mean, it's clear from this that basically, like, the only suspects that we should have considered were the charwoman, Butchert, and
Finnegan,
Gorwood, and the
yeah,
constable,
the
obviously.
constable, yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
and Finnegan himself, of course. But, like,
yeah,
that was it. Like, those were the suspects, like, the
those
end.
are the main characters, literally.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So I think that's also a clue about,
Yep.
how to figure out who did what with these letters. Like it's gonna be a main character and not some ancillary character, even if they have some lines.
Someone who's mentioned in multiple letters.
Yeah.
And if they're mentioned in all the letters,
Yeah.
then it's even better.
Yeah, that's a major sign, definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely. Um, yeah, I definitely got confused by some of these lines, like, it's like
yeah.
it's written in this way where it feels like it knows what it's saying, but, like, I'm
Definitely
not
knows
really
what it's
sure.
saying. Yeah.
Like this thing that we already read, like, it's his interviews with you, this is Mr. Tierney. His interviews with you and your former friend Matt convinced me of not only your innocence, but that of Butchert and Gorwood, but also and that of Butchert and Gorwood, but also of Salah's guilt. The information we found in your former colleague suggested that neither would have a motive to steal the astrolabe. And if you, Mr. Finnegan, were the thief, then why would you, already imprisoned, have agreed with this
Oh,
notion?
agree with the notion that Mac and Ken have no motive to steal the astrolabe. So if Finnegan were the thief, why would he agree that these other two
Ah, that's the
suspects?
point. He should want
Yes,
to push suspicion
yes,
on them.
yeah,
Ah, okay.
yeah,
Wow. Okay,
yeah,
okay, okay, okay. That makes sense. Never
yeah,
mind.
yeah, yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay. All right. It wasn't that hard, but for some reason I could
Yeah,
not
the
make
way
that
it's
leap.
written is really strange. Um,
You may have been attempting some sort of manipulation, but your final statements indicated that you were unaware of a large part of the constable's accusation. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I don't
but
think I
okay,
really
I
caught that
take
either.
issue with that line. I do take issue with this summation here. That in your final statements, you statements indicated you were unaware of a large part of the constable's accusation. But like, why would he volunteer that there were tracks left in the atrium if he was the culprit?
Right. Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
basically saying because you didn't say some things, I don't think you did it. But those are the things he wouldn't say if he did it.
Yeah. 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 Why would he give away
The
his
same way the
stuff?
constable is not saying things because he did it, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's also
Yeah.
saying things because he did it, like the tracks.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just find that to be a strangely problematic summation. I'm like, I feel like I can poke holes in that line of
Yeah,
reasoning.
yeah. I agree, and I'm not even sure what he's saying. Is he saying that Sallow just told Sherlock Holmes that there were soap marks, but he was never going to put that in like an official, he wasn't going to make that part of the case? Like, is that what he's saying? Like, because otherwise, like, I don't really understand what the point is supposed to be here.
It's almost like I guess there's no evidence there was actually soot marks. It only comes from Salo.
Yeah,
And I guess he's saying since that wasn't corroborated by anybody else, that he just made it up. Um,
yeah.
but it's just a weird. It's weird to say, you didn't. You if you're the thief, you didn't try to pin it on Mac and Ken. You agreed that they had no reason, no motive to steal it. You could have been doing that as a manipulation, but in the last thing you told me, you didn't even know all the reasons why people think you did it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the constable said there were tracks left, and you, Finnegan, never mentioned that there were tracks left, which sounds like an obvious thing to leave out. If he did it, didn't he leave out? I mean, I guess he did mention the case was broken, but not that he said he saw it, right? I mean, I'm just trying to
Yeah.
think of other. If he did it, what did he leave out? I feel like there's a lot. Um. Okay. Okay. So anyway, yeah. Anyway, That's a weird
Yeah, is
line.
it like Sherlock is expecting him to be like, "Well, I know there were soot marks in there, but blah 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 blah." Like, why would
Like to
he?
bring it up to defend against it, but it's like that's a
Yeah,
dangerous game. Yeah.
yeah. Just if he's guilty, like, why would he bring up stuff
I guess
that
maybe
makes him
he's
look
saying,
guilty?
okay, okay. Now I know I've just like been chipping at it, and now I'm like maybe I'll support it. Like maybe he's saying like you gave all the other details you gave were corroborated by other
Mm-hmm.
people, but you didn't mention that there were chimney tracks. And if there were really chimney tracks and you did it, you would have mentioned them if they're because you would have wanted to make an explanation for them. I guess that's
Okay.
what he's saying. And so the
Yeah.
fact that you didn't even mention them means you didn't even know about them. And the fact that nobody else mentioned them means they probably weren't there since the person who is saying they were there is probably the person who did it. I
Right.
guess that's what's happening here.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. It's just you have to read between the lines a lot to
Yeah,
make
it's
that
like
connection.
reading the solution is part of the mystery. It's like, what does the
Yeah.
solution mean?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I didn't think it was gonna be that hard to interpret. That's really confusing. Um, okay. Uh, let's see.
Yeah, I'm just reading the rest of this part. So he's saying, okay, it seems strange. I noticed Sala was the only one claiming he saw the soot marks, which is great. We did talk about that, right? That he
Yeah,
knew Finnegan was a chimney sweep, so he's gonna. I guess that's the thing I didn't think was true. I thought there were actual soot marks. I thought he
me
faked them.
too. Me
But this
too.
is just saying he just claimed they were there, but they probably weren't
They
ever
weren't
there.
even there. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, which is really funny.
it is. It is. You get
It
away
was
with a lot, and
it was soot all over the place, guys. You couldn't you couldn't step one step
there
without
was
getting
more soot than glass in
yeah.
there. There was a
And you
lot
know
of
and you know
glass.
how much glass there was. It was a whole continent full of glass in that one room, but there was more even more soot. It was imagine soot, imagine glass, and that's all there is. Okay,
Soot
so
and glass forever and
glass.
ever.
The next George R. R. Martin movie, Soot and Glass. Okay, so then he says, "I hastily dispatched another associate, Ned Lottie, because you know it's a potty if you get in Lottie."
Body with Lottie.
He says, "Okay, only 2 days later, after the Lottie was let loose, he received a letter from Mr. Lottie to deliver the final pieces of information. I would need to call for Solo's immediate arrest and your release from prison."
So I think that was
Lottie,
letter 4.
okay. Lottie's report, unbeknownst to him, Lottie didn't even know this.
No, of course not.
Lottie's oblivious. His report indicated that Constable Bentley Solo had lied on more than one occasion in his attempts to incriminate you for his own crimes and for what he believed was an underlying connection to Professor James Moriarty. Okay, I wanted to stop there. Yeah. So he's just like, hey, this Moriarty thing was some period of time ago. It didn't seem like it was yesterday. Finnegan's been trying to get a job for a while, so I feel like it's been at least a few months. But he's like, "Hey, you you didn't pay the price for your association with Moriarty, so and I know you're coming to the campus." I guess that's the thing, right? He didn't say, "Oh well, who's coming to for a tour tomorrow?" Oh, Finnegan. I don't know who that is. I'm gonna research everyone who's coming tomorrow just because. Oh look, Finnegan has a connection to Moriarty. I'm upset about that. Okay, we don't think that's what happened, right? Doesn't it mean that he would have already known about Finnegan's name? I mean, yeah, right? Because if he worked with his boss who took down
Yeah. I mean, they
Moriarty,
don't say that here in the letter, but
yeah,
yeah, that makes
gotta be
more
true.
sense.
He heard Finnegan as an associate of Moriarty when his boss was doing stuff,
Yeah.
right?
He
And so
sees the
this he's like
name.
the one that got away.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Okay, you're coming here. I know who you are. Now I see you're coming here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pin this crime on
I'm
you.
gonna
And if I
frame
can
your
make a quick
ass.
buck,
Hey, all the better.
hey,
Yeah.
because I'm not I'm not a completely moral person. I mean, like I have an oath here to dispense justice, but also justice from my pockets.
Yeah, it's really like, aren't you just a crappy Moriarty? Like, why are you so like, like you're
Funny. Oh my god. He became what he hated.
yeah, like you're committing crimes
So
over here
funny.
and you're like, "Hey, you need to go down because you were associated with this
He's
criminal." And
Batman. Yeah, live long enough to see yourself become a villain, right, Solo? That's
yeah,
exactly what happened.
it
He became
is.
a villain. Oh my
It's a
god.
tragic story. Yeah.
Wow, a tale as old as time. Wow, who knew he was so archetypical? Wow, Solo. Yeah, wow, even his name. Yeah, that's exactly the kind of person who's gonna go low. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah,
wow.
Bentley Salo.
Bentley
Yeah.
Salo. Yeah, that's like yeah, it's a what's his name? Sammy Jenkins, right? It's
Mhm.
like, remember Bentley Salo? It's like the Oedipus, I mean not Oedipus, the Icarus story, right? It's like
Yeah.
it becomes a shorthand for hey, don't be too beholden to your beliefs because you might end up going completely against them.
Remember Bentley Salo.
Bentley Salo, everybody. Maybe you gotta let things go and they don't turn your obsession, right?
I feel like Sherlock should have underlined that point, but
Yeah. That
it
would have
was
been a fun
there.
morality lesson there to be like, "Hey, this is I see." He's like, "I see this all the time."
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. Yeah.
you can I mean, that's the difference, right? When does a hero become a villain, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
oh,
definitely.
wow. Yeah.
'Cause, yeah, it
He's
would be
so
one
tragic.
thing if it was like, "Oh, I used, whatever, like, I used a fake one and I have the real one and I gave it back and I paid
Exactly.
for the repair of the case," and, like,
Yeah.
it was just
Or
to take this guy down, you know?
he entices he does a slightly immoral thing and entices Finnegan to steal it or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, he's like in pursuit of justice, I'm gonna commit a crime and make a profit from it.
Yeah, like, how does that make sense? I don't understand.
And that's the thing too, right? They didn't connect it to any gambling, right? They didn't say, okay, he needed the money. It
No.
wasn't just about the justice against Finnegan. He needed the money for some other reason.
Just for fun,
Like
just
he
for
lost to
whatever.
who's the one who's gambling, Butchered or whoever? He's
Yeah,
like
yeah, I
the
think
gambling
so.
guy. So it's like, oh, he
Yeah.
lost a bunch of money. Also, what they didn't talk about that we went into great depths about is all the women, the Me Too movement.
Yeah, yeah,
None of
yeah.
that was related.
Nah, that didn't matter at
The
all.
char woman and the what do they call it? The room women, the uh the the chambermaids.
Oh, yeah, yeah, chamber yeah, yeah, mhm. Yep.
That's caveman.
Chambermaid means room woman, it's the
Room-
same thing, come on.
Yeah, yeah. Just translated from English to Old English. And so none of that mattered. There's no the woman the woman from Wales wasn't his
No.
sweetheart.
No, there
Um,
was no reveal like that,
yeah, there
even
wasn't
though
like, yeah, he needed the money to charm this woman that he
I
was
guess
in
she
love
didn't even
with.
know that it was in there. I guess, like, she was just like, "What? I just brought you water." Like, I didn't know there was a thing in there.
Brought you dirty water. What do you want from me?
Leave me alone.
So I'm gonna be back 2 more times today. Like, leave me alone. I come 3 times a day. It's always horrible. I'm from Wales. What do you want? I think that's what's interesting. I think we put way more life into the characters than
Yeah,
Sherlock Holmes did.
yeah,
So, yeah,
it's
there's a
true.
lot of people we spend a lot of time talking about.
Yeah, yeah, way too much, way too
Yeah,
much.
and they had
I
no
mean,
didn't
remember the suspicions of, like, Elsie or whoever
yes.
Ella or whoever that was?
Yeah,
At the other
yeah,
school, like,
yep,
we went
yep.
on a whole thing about
She
that in the first
yeah,
letter.
her school needs more money, so she's trying to get donors. and he
Yeah.
decided to steal the astrolabe so that the school looks bad, her rival school looks bad, and the donors come to her school or whatever, and
Yeah.
she uses Finnegan as a pawn and the whole thing. And yeah, no, she's just a nice, normal woman. But
No, just trying to help and wasn't even in the area at all. So there was no, yeah, like I gotta learn from that. Like the suspects are characters that are like known to be in the area. Like it's not
I
gonna be
gotta
like
say,
some random person from earlier in
I'm
the story.
disappointed that Max Music didn't break the glass.
Max Music didn't do shit, apparently. It was
It
just
just prevented them from hearing
I
the
guess
glass being
so.
broken, and that's
Yeah.
all that meant.
By coincidence, right? I mean, did the constable even know that that was gonna be
I
happening?
guess
Like,
he was gonna do it
he
anyway,
just got
right?
lucky?
He just got
Yeah.
lucky.
That's what it sounds like. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, they didn't do anything with that. That was
I'm
like
like, that was so ingenious of us to figure that out. It didn't even happen.
that wrong theory was genius. No, it's I mean, it happens sometimes, you know. Sometimes the theories are better than the thing that actually
Yeah,
happens. I mean, hey, I mean, I think we've all seen a few examples of that, you
I
know.
can't think of 6 seasons worth in any of it.
I think we can you can think of your top 5 examples. Let us know your top 5 examples of theories that were better than the actual
Yeah,
answer.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you pick it apart so deeply, like it's clear from this that, there was just a decent portion of the letters that were just extraneous stuff that was either red herring or just background detail that, didn't really contribute to the case or solving the mystery. Like it was just like, okay, well, we need these things to kind of flesh this out and make this like kind of work as a story, but like characterization and all that. It was just like, here's the thing you need to know. Like this guy's like, I don't know, harassing women at the gambling table. That's all we got. I don't know. Leave
Yeah,
us
that's the thing
alone.
that's just like it's just like filler color, but it doesn't actually matter for the case.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like if it had come up, if there had been a discrepancy about it, someone else is like, "No, he was always a perfect gentleman," or like if there was a reason, maybe it could have carried forward. But when it's just a thing that's kind of mentioned and like never
And you
discussed
think because
again,
it's mentioned that it matters, but if
right?
it's now it's like, well, if it's mentioned only once, it probably doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think that's the key. That's the key. Like, because the thing with the cuff, like, it came back. It came back in a
Yeah.
few different ways, and that was a clue that that actually does matter, and that was like a major, like, clue in the whole case.
Imagine
So,
imagine if the constable didn't do the whole "you tore my cuff" thing. So
hmm
like Finnegan doesn't mention that he had a torn cuff.
yeah,
The constable doesn't mention a torn cuff.
yeah.
And then all we would have is Mac and Ken saying that he was fixated on his cuff. We wouldn't even know what that meant because
Yeah,
no one else
no,
would have
it
mentioned
would be
it.
totally out of context. I mean, maybe we could
So
guess
I'm
it
just
now.
saying Salo should have shut up about his cuff
Yeah,
because no one would have thought that meant anything.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, that was basically,
I mean, I guess.
yeah.
Oh, sorry. The other part is finding. I guess the charwoman said she saw a thread. So
Oh,
we
yeah,
would
yeah,
have to
yeah.
so we would just have to piece together, she saw a thread and he was fixated on his cuff,
And he
maybe he
said there
tore his
was no
cuff,
fabric.
and he said there was no fabric. But I think he
So,
should say nothing about anything. So I
yeah,
would say even that's gone, and so you just have the 2 points of
yeah.
he's fixated on his cuff and there's a torn thread, and I don't think that'd be enough to be like, "He's guilty."
Well, so to me, like once we get to the fourth letter and he's going to the jeweler with the rubies, to me that's like the smoking gun. Like that's the part where it's like, okay, like whatever story we tell, like he ended up with the rubies, so
Yes,
either
he's
someone else
you know
stole it and gave him the rubies, or he stole the thing.
Yeah,
Like,
and one of the things we missed, it was a slightly different way to think about it, was because he goes to the jeweler and the jeweler points out that there's a fake ruby, It's a
Yeah.
garnet or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And we thought that meant that he knew one might be fake.
Yeah.
But he was just wanting to see the value of them because he
Yep.
already so it wasn't like, "Oh, one's fake, great, now I can plant this." He had already planned to plant it, but wanted to know which is
Which was the
the least
cheapest.
valuable to do the
Yeah.
plant, and he got even a better jackpot. One's so non-valuable, it's
Totally
not even
worthless.
reading.
That's why he was so
Yeah,
glad.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Otherwise, he just would have planted whatever the one was with the smallest value, which I didn't really
That's funny.
guess, even though it's a
Yeah,
simple answer.
yep. Yeah, I was like, "Well, how did he know one was fake?" But he didn't know which one was fake, right? Because
Right.
that was the whole thing too, right? If he told Finnegan, "Oh, you know how to discern rubies, do you?"
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and I
really
guess
weird.
in hindsight, is he saying that because he couldn't discern which was that was the fake one until the jeweler pointed out? So he just had a very clear experience of how hard it is to know which rupees are fake because he didn't know one was fake until it was pointed out
Mhm.
to him. So he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you can discern a ruby?" But
Mhm.
it doesn't mean much because if you say, "Hey, that's a ruby," and it's like a red thing, like most people are gonna be like,
Well,
"Yeah, I
yeah,
understand."
and it was actually fake anyway, so
Yeah,
it's like he's not
that's
that good at
funny.
it.
Yeah, he's actually bad at. He's as bad as you at it. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it's just fun. It's
that's
like
funny.
he's telling this thing to like
Yeah,
incriminate this guy, but then like he knows it's actually not real.
yeah,
So, but he's insinuating that it is real and that that's his ability to notice the thing.
yeah.
I don't know.
It's
It's
got some layers.
it's
Yeah,
kind of a lot. I don't know. Doesn't seem necessary to do all that, but it did happen.
but yeah. Okay, what else stands out here? Just rereading this part. Okay, he got the cigarette case. Yeah, I guess he didn't really underline why the case and the locket have etchings on them. He just basically, he didn't say, "Oh, in the 1800s, we would etch numbers at a pawn shop on the things we buy. So
Right.
therefore, they came from Mr. Rayburn." He just says he got it from them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Basically because he asked him to engrave something. So it's like, well, if it's got engravings on it, then it came from Rayburn. But not
Yeah.
necessarily like because it's a pawn shop, just
Mhm.
because Rayburn does engravings. It's almost
Right.
more like that. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and we talked about that too, and it seems kind of vague and like,
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. We were supposed to connect dots there. I mean, it also seems to me like from what we're saying, like, I mean, if you want to solve it from letter one, like it's pretty, I mean, he was a suspect in letter one, no doubt.
Mhm.
But, by the time you get to the last letter, like it's kind of overdetermined. Like there's like multiple reasons as outlined here to believe that the constable's guilty. So by the time we get to the end, like we didn't even need the cuff. It's like there was like
Yeah.
multiple lines of reasoning that lead to the same place. So anyway, I'm just, if we do another one of these, like once we get like multiple things that point in the same direction, that seems like a likely reason to believe that,
Mhm.
because they seem to like to make sure it's not just the one thing that unlocks the case. Like there's a series of things.
Yeah. I'm trying to. I'm reading this part where he's talking about Salo and why would he steal the astrolabe in such an indiscreet manner?
Oh,
Good question. Oh, I guess at some point Salo says that he visited both pawnbrokers. That's not a thing I remember because that's a clue that he was lying about something, or it's a clue that
oh, where is that? Oh, Sallow too would have learned this when he quote visited them both, as he claimed. Ah, yeah, I think that's something I didn't catch.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Visited them both. Let's see if I can find that. Da, 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 da. Okay, blah blah blah. Um, okay. I think the second letter was the only one,
Yeah, it's gotta be in the second
right?
one.
Um,
Because that's Solo's letter.
okay, let's see. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Um, da, 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 da. Ah, okay, yeah. It's funny. It's funny that Holmes like puts. All right, let me make sure I'm right about this. Holmes puts quote visited them both. Whereas I look at the letter and it is implied that he visited them both, but it doesn't. He doesn't literally say I visited them both. At least I don't see it here.
Oh.
It says, I will also note that I've inquired to see if Finnegan might have sold or pawned the astrolabe. The artifact has not been sold or offered to either of the local pawnbrokers. Blah, 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 blah. So,
Wow. That's a real deep inference there.
yeah, yeah. So basically, like that implies that he visited them both, but he didn't say that he visited them both. He
Yeah,
just,
but why would he even be telling the truth? He's taking what he says here as fact.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, but I get that it's like kind of a discrepancy that he doesn't mention that one of them is like completely not operating anymore. Like that's kind of weird. I don't even know why he would do that. Does he not know? Like I kind of confused by that.
Yeah, but that's such a strange leap, right? For I was gonna say Gandalf for Sherlock to take, um, because what he says the artifact has not been sold or offered to either of the local prom brokers, mainly because one is closed.
Yeah.
And like, why
Yeah.
can't that be true in what he said? That's what's
It
strange.
really can be. That's why I'm saying like he didn't literally say he visited them.
Yeah.
So it's like you don't he could have visited one and the other one was closed and he's like, well, it clearly hasn't
It's
been
not
sold.
hasn't been sold to either of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's not I don't know, it's almost like there was an earlier draft of the letter where he said I
Uh,
visited them both and they cut that line and then
yeah.
forgot.
I mean, there's a way in which you can look at quotes visited them both to have Sherlock mean that that's an inference
Mhm.
and
I
not a quote, but
but
just
like if you look earlier at the quotes, like engrave something for a sweetheart, like,
yeah,
like these are things that are actually in the letter, no finger
yeah,
marks or
could
remnants of fabric,
be.
small stone, brown, speckled with verdigris. These are all like literal
Yeah, you're
quotes.
right. Yeah, you're right. It should come off like a quote.
Yeah, it's like it's just strange to phrase it that way. Like like why not just say he claimed to have visited them both, but that was false. Like I like why put a quote if he never
Yeah, you're right.
said that? I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, I find that very strange. Seems like there's some yeah, I don't know.
Now, here's a weird sentence. The next sentence. Mr.
Okay.
Rayburn proceeded to confirm Solo's lie when he said that nobody had been in his shop since May the 1st. Is he saying the lie was that what's the lie? The lie was that the astrolabe wasn't sold to one of the pawn shops? Wait.
Okay. Okay. Uh uh oh my god, I'm so confused. Hold on. Hold on. I'm getting lost in the negative here. So if what does it mean to confirm a lie? Does it mean does it
It
mean
means It means oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. Like,
Does that mean that it's true or false?
does it mean it shows that the lie is a lie, or does it mean it makes it seem like the lie is true? Like, I'm not really sure which one it
I guess
means.
confirm his lie versus confirm that he's lying. Is
Confirm
that
that
the
he's
same?
lying. Yeah, I feel like that's what he's saying, right? Like, because he said he visited them both, but Mr. Abrams said no one had been in the shop. So that confirms that it's a lie,
That he
right?
didn't visit either of them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what it sounds like.
Okay, okay, I wouldn't have gotten that, but okay, so the lie wasn't that anything about the jewels, the lie was about that he visited them both, that's the lie.
Yeah. I think so.
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
maybe
No, I
not,
like
but
that. No, that makes sense. That because
yeah.
it's what it's directly related, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
His lie was that he visited them both, so Rayburn confirmed the lie, which means to make it,
Yeah, to confirm a lie is
confirm
to prove that the lie
it's
was a
false.
lie.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is a weird way to say that. But yeah, I think that's why I was really confused by this statement.
Uh, so wait, Mac convinced him of his innocence? How did Mac convince Sherlock of Finnegan's innocence?
Mr. Tierney's interviews with you and your former friend Mac. Okay, well, let's go back to Mr. Tierney. Let's see, what was that? Is that letter 3, I
Uh,
think?
yes.
Yeah. Let's see. Second part. All right, let's see what Mac had to say in letter 3. Um, let's
Oh,
see.
Mac. What is
Yeah, I know. It's like, what? Okay. Blah blah blah. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Here we go. Here we go. Um, okay. Blah blah blah. Okay, here we go. Um, okay. Still scroll. Wait, where did this happen? I didn't find it. Did I
I'm
pass
not
it?
seeing it. He had two letters.
Tierney?
I mean, two and one. Two and one.
Yeah, yeah, but one of them's from
Oh,
Finnegan.
you're right. One is from Finnegan. Sorry. Tierney's
Um,
just the second one. Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's see. I visit 2 pawn shops. Okay. Okay, hold on. Let me make sure I'm reading this right before I hold on. His interviews, meaning Tierney, right?
Uh huh.
With you and your former friend Mac, convinced me. Okay. So, so yeah. So where, where's the interview? I don't. Okay. Did I pass it? Let's see. Okay. So here he talks to the shopkeeper. Um, and we got these gemstones. Ballad shop closing out
Get
sick.
your
Okay.
gemstones here. Gemstones. Get your gemstones over here. Yeah,
You
this is him talking to Rayburn. This is Rayburn. Uh,
they talk about Mac and Ken here. Uh, Mac's always looking to make some quick money, huh? Does that count as an interview?
yeah, wasn't Mac in the next letter? Didn't Mac get interviewed in the next letter by is it Lottie?
Is that what who he means by his? Like the change of subject there is tough.
I know it's supposed to be. Let's just find out. But it's supposed to be Matt. I mean,
Again, see,
Tierney.
the previous paragraph ends with not a great cause for alarm until reading the rest of Mr. Tierney's notes. Right? That I mean, that's got to be leading to his interviews with you and your former friend Mac. Convince me I'm not
Yeah,
only your
I
right.
agree. But maybe let's see if Mac is in the Lottie letter because
He does
maybe
interview Finnegan. Like, there's a part at the end where he interviews Finnegan. So
when
like
when
that's
does
accurate.
he interview Mac?
Yeah, did they cut the Mac interview? I'm gonna start. This is like the deleted scene of
Yeah,
these
that's what I'm
letters.
wondering, like, or did they yeah, did he say the wrong person? He meant to say Lottie, but he said
Okay, okay, yeah. Is there a Mac interview in here? Let's see. I do
yeah,
feel like there
continuous
was.
yeah, there was.
I remember there was a thing where it's like, oh, blah, blah. Oh, here it is. I found it. I found it.
Where is it?
Yeah. Mr. Gorwood was unfortunately not present. This is page 2, second to last paragraph. But I
Yeah.
did meet both Mac and Butchert and the charwoman, Miss Northcott. Yeah, Mr. Butcher, it seemed, yeah, so it's just, damn it, Holmes, you don't even know who said what. Like, come on.
How is Holmes not keeping up with what's
Holmes didn't even
happening here?
know. Like, oh
Holmes
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
even know.
Somebody
That's what
made
I'm
notes.
saying, like, I think we put more mental effort in this case than Holmes did.
I agree. I agree. God, he's like, he doesn't even know. Like Tierney, Lottie, who cares? It's all the same.
Yeah, he outsourced all of the investigation to
Yep.
all these other people, so he's
Yep.
taking their word for it.
Yep. Yep. Okay, so Mr. Butcher seemed galled to be disturbed for questions again, but he corroborated what we already knew. Ken came running to my office screaming. He rarely does either, so I knew something was amiss. He told me about the glass in the atrium. Then we asked Elsie to keep watch and ran to find the constable. Rather cowardly to leave a woman the criminal, blah, blah, blah. Mr. Butcher finished. We found Sallow outside of the lecture halls, fixated on his shirt sleeve, and called out to him from the top of the corridor. He asked, was all that noise you two? He's not so bright. We asked him to follow us to the atrium after he
Wait,
inspected the
kind of
broken.
point, he's not so bright. We pointed that out as a weird thing to say, but
Mm-hmm.
really it's standing out because it's pointing to the fact that that's a lie. Like
Yeah.
he caused the noise.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. We asked him to follow us to the atrium after he inspected the broken display case. He questioned us like you. He wanted to know if we'd seen anybody else that morning. None of us had after reviewing the list of visitors for the previous days. He then asked Ken and I if any seemed suspicious. We hesitated to call Finnegan's visit suspicious, but it was certainly odd and uncomfortable. Ken didn't think Finnegan would have had the cheek to commit a crime like that. I'm less surprised to see him in irons. He was Professor Moriarty's assistant after all. So that's what he said. Okay.
Well, I'm a little confused now because it was not that definitive that sorry, that Max specifically didn't think Finnegan could do it. Ken seems to he says he didn't think he could do it, but Mac is the one that's less surprised.
His
Yeah.
interviews with you and your former friend, his interviews with you and your former friend Matt convinced me of not only your innocence, but that of Butchert and Gorwood, and that of Butchert and Gorwood, but also of Sal's guilt. Okay. I mean, he talks about some of the stuff from that interview. There's a thing about the cuff. Obviously, that, plays a role in the thing.
Mhm.
Um, and I guess um I guess yeah, I guess let's talk about the
Yeah, I mean,
list.
if you get general, you could say, "Hey, listen, like from what Max said, he basically said I'm not surprised given his connection to Moriarty, and if and that's not a very good, that's not a very strong case.
Yeah.
Right, he didn't say anything that would really make it seem like he did this crime, right? So maybe that's what I'll give Sherlock that. Like he's just basically saying, "Hey, yeah, he told me he's not surprised because of connection to Moriarty." But if that's all he had to say, if that's the strongest evidence he has of Finnegan's guilt, then that's nothing.
Yeah.
Although, didn't Sherlock say he was like, "This is all about Moriarty, y'all"?
At the beginning, it seemed like we were headed for like there's a secret Moriarty connection. And then it just kind of disappeared at a certain point.
Yeah, he's like, I knew that Moriarty played a role in the solution, but until I had all the facts at my disposal, could not understand how. It was very minor.
Yeah, how just because that was the
Yeah,
reason this guy was framed? Like, is that
yeah,
all he means?
yeah. That's all he means.
Okay. Okay. I mean, that's what the first letter said. Like I
Yeah, exactly.
like that doesn't make you a
Sherlock's like, I
genius.
have a novel idea. I bet
It's like
Moriarty has something to do with this.
it's like the first thing from the first letter. Like
Yeah.
they're framing me because I was associated with Moriarty. I knew that Moriarty would play a role in the solution.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Easiest easiest thing to know. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, that really made me think we were headed for like some surprise reveal, but
Huh. Yeah,
no.
I thought Moriarty was still in business, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, he engineered this, and he stole. We thought he was done, but now he's back." Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's what I was expecting. Definitely. Um,
Well, I mean, I guess the basics are there. I think
yeah.
we honed in on some stuff that was complete red herrings.
Yes.
And some things that the gambling didn't matter, coming up with a mathematical formula to win in
No, no,
games didn't
no.
matter.
The fact that it was an astrolabe didn't really
Didn't
matter.
matter.
It was
No.
just incidental. It was basically a MacGuffin. It was a valuable thing that could be
Yep.
stolen and used to frame someone and pawn for money or whatever. Like it didn't really matter what it was.
And he
So
didn't have that big a reason. He didn't need the money to get married. He wasn't
no,
trying to charm somebody. He
I'm
wasn't
really
even trying to like get
surprised.
a better job. He was
Yeah.
um
I thought the
yeah,
solution would have more stuff along those lines, like explaining the whys and even the
yeah.
hows, than it really did.
House left to be explained. Yeah.
It kind of just brushes
Even,
over
like,
the
when
details.
yeah, like, even when did the constable plant the
Mhm.
chimney, the astrolabe in the chimney, and
Yeah,
when
yeah,
did he
yeah,
decide to
separately from the locket with the ruby, like
why did he
it's
do it the way he did it?
yeah.
Oh, like, that's yeah, skipped over.
Yeah, it's totally unclear. Like it makes no sense. And yeah yeah, and there's inconsistencies like between the solution and the actual letters that make it seem like they cut stuff or they got confused about who said what. And
Yeah,
it's
that's
just
the
like
weird that's what you don't expect, that the final letter is wrong about the details you can corroborate.
yeah, yeah, because you can just pull them up, and you would think like whoever wrote this could look
Would
at the
go back and
letters.
make sure that it's actually right.
Yeah, like read what it says. Like, does that make sense? Did that really come from the place you said it came from? Like,
Yeah.
this it isn't that long. I don't know. I mean, I'm not
Wow.
saying it's nothing, but it's just like, I get it. Like on a TV show, like they got, it's a tight
Yeah.
schedule. They got to be writing and
Yep.
editing and overseeing all these facets of the production, and it's like this hectic
Mhm.
like factory. They're churning out stuff. You know, they're filming stuff. Of course, like mistakes get made in that kind of environment, because it's really hard to like be really careful about every single detail when you have all this other like large, all these
Yeah.
large tasks that, are in a way like more important than those things,
Yeah.
but it kind of feels to me like these letters are almost only that, like the whole way they work is as a vehicle to give you these clues and those clues should all like fit together, make sense, and then be used in the solution in a clear and consistent way. And it's like, I don't know. Is it like if you wrote it too straightforwardly, if you didn't like mess up a bit, then like it would be too easy? I don't know. Or they just messed up. Like I just find it very
Well, they
strange.
mess up on things that you could fix. That's what's weird, and they don't matter. So they didn't,
Yeah.
that's what's weird.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I would think the solution and like, yeah, Mac's statement convinced me that not only you were innocent, but everyone else was innocent.
Yeah,
And
I think that's the thing that I'm surprised about in terms of the writing of the mystery is Sherlock didn't do anything that I would consider quintessential Sherlock Holmes,
yeah,
which is pinpoint on the detail everybody else missed and illustrate how that was key to solving everything.
yeah.
he did the opposite of that by saying, "Some people I had interview you guys convinced me." Like, that's the
Mhm.
opposite of the quintessential Sherlock Holmes thing, which is to be like, "Ah, yes, the temperature of the muddy water that the, woman brought in, related to the origin of that garnet, which could only have been purchased on the winter solstice."
Right.
Like the real Sherlock Holmes stuff of like you have to be a super genius in order to solve. This is not a case you have to be. I mean, clearly it's not a case you have to be a super genius because he outsourced all of this. Like, and maybe that's
Yeah.
like a funny reality to the series
Yeah.
is that none of these cases are going to be the ones where you really need Sherlock Holmes' full intelligence to solve.
Mhm.
By
Yeah.
virtue of the fact that they're writing to, sort of quote to us, the
Right.
consulting detective, and this is stuff we should be able to solve. And
Yeah.
it's funny if that's what the company says is they're out. Like, it's actually a hilarious idea. Like, we don't actually have to write the most intelligent mysteries ever because of the fact these are the mysteries we want the average person to be able to solve
Right.
and not the mysteries only Sherlock Holmes could solve.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. 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 Which makes sense, but
It's
I
like an
almost
automatic, yeah, it's like a get out of jail free card. It's like, well, I guess it makes sense that these aren't that great because they can't be, or else we wouldn't be able to solve them.
I guess it would be harder, but it kind of makes me wish they had like a difficulty selection, where
Yeah,
you could get like an easier one or a harder one, and
yeah.
like then it wouldn't
You know
because
what? All you need to do to make that happen is have a different final letter. I think you could have one letter that gives a simple solution like this one.
mhm,
And then you give one letter that's our thing, where it was like Max Music,
right.
he played opera and it hit the frequency. And that, and so all the detail, because it's like you can make a different solution out of the same building blocks, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Real answer, it's all fiction.
Right.
So maybe, yeah, maybe that would be actually a good idea and a very easy way to do it is just if you want the hard solution, you get a different letter from Sherlock and he
Yeah.
tells like a crazy explanation.
Elaborate answer that involves connecting all sorts of dots that are like not really that obvious.
Hmm.
Yeah, the music, the upside down M, all that business,
Yeah,
like
that kind of stuff. Upside down M, he's in love with the
in
whatever her name is from
yeah,
Wales.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, Winnie from
Winnie or
Wales.
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
Winnie from Wales, and yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
funny. Well, maybe we should just write our own solution.
Maybe we
We'll
should.
we'll write our version, and we can have the listeners compare. You can
Mhm.
have our difficult version.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
be
yeah,
funny.
yeah. What yeah, where did any of you like I don't know. Um agree with our I don't
Yeah,
know. It's weird.
I am curious for the listeners. Yeah, write us on Patreon. Like, let us know what you thought of this resolution and what you were thinking this whole time. Is it how far off from what you were thinking, or is it spot on? Did you expect it to be more difficult or easier? Yeah, I'm curious. I like it as a service. It's definitely interesting.
Yeah,
And from us reading the solutions on the blog, it seems like the cases vary pretty wildly.
definitely. Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we'll see what the next one is and maybe yeah, maybe it'll be I don't know what. It'll be different at least.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Anything else to go over before we wrap it up?
Uh no, I mean, I think that's it, yeah, it was a unique experience. I mean, I think, despite the fact that we went on a lot of tangents and maybe we zeroed in on a lot of details that didn't matter, I do think like, we caught like most of the things that contributed to the solution. So I definitely think we have the right kind of attention to details that
Hmm.
should lead us to be able to solve these. And I think maybe the challenge going forward is like how early can we get a solution, because I think we were suspicious of the constable in letter one. already, just from the weirdness of the thing with the cuff and all that. And I think we even mentioned the idea that maybe he tore the cuff stealing the thing,
Yeah,
in the first
yeah.
one, you
Could we
know.
have gotten the Y
Uh
in the first letter?
I mean, the why wasn't that great, so I think just by, guessing the simplest possible why, maybe?
So
But
the why is because he bought into Finnegan's poor reputation.
yeah, I guess
Like,
so,
hey,
yeah.
guilty by association, that's
Yeah.
it. Like,
Yeah.
he didn't actually have a why outside of himself. It
Yeah.
was all about Finnegan. So what we tried to give him a bigger why
Yeah,
that tied into
yeah.
Finnegan, but he was just like, nope, it's just about this guy and his bad reputation.
It's the original thing that's, like, mentioned right away. No one wants to hire me because 'cause I'm associated with Moriarty. Everyone wants to arrest me because 'cause I'm associated with Moriarty. Like, it's
Yeah.
it's it's
Why am I
just the
being
same thing.
framed? Because I'm associated with Moriarty.
Yeah. Yeah, and a little extra cash, like, it's like a very, very simple so, yeah,
That's the
I
thing,
feel like we could
like,
have
they
come up
didn't
with it.
say he needed money, they
No.
didn't there wasn't like, "Oh, man, he can't afford to get that cuff fixed," you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no.
It's
I
just
mean,
like
I think we assumed that he wouldn't be paid as well and that like he might, want a promotion or he might want to like have a more important or interesting job, which all makes sense, but yeah, there's like
they didn't
nothing
say
about that
that. Yeah, I
here.
mean, I guess they did confirm, he does go to the pawn shop, so he needs money to buy random, like,
Yeah.
things with numbers engraved on them.
He just
Uh,
gets things with numbers engraved on them. There's
yeah,
again
any
no
numbers will
reason for
do.
that. It's like I
Yeah,
don't care, just put some numbers on
just
there.
give me some are there numbers on it? Then I want it.
That's it. Yeah, that's a weird one. That's a weird one. They could have cut that. I think I could have solved the mystery without that weird connection that
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
really even make sense.
yeah.
Because
And
if
it
you
didn't
have
matter
like
that he bought them at a pawn. It didn't really matter. The pawn it
no,
didn't yeah, that doesn't matter.
and if you have like a weird like preference for like having you know numbers engraved on your metal like jewelry and trinkets like don't use those to plant the crime scene. Like what are you doing? Like why I don't know.
He's
I
like,
just
"Who's gonna piece it together?" Sherlock Holmes will piece it together.
I guess so. I guess that was his hubris. He really
Yeah,
thought he could
that's
get
his
away with
hubris.
anything.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, this was interesting. Yeah, this was fun. Yeah, I think we got our money's worth out of that.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
that was
think so.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we talked about that stuff for many hours, so
I think I wish the letters would have come with better cadence.
so do I. Very much
Yep,
so.
yep.
I fully agree with that. Yeah, we'll see how maybe the next one will be. I don't really have high hopes, but we'll see. Maybe the next one will be a bit better. You never know.
Yeah. Well, we're getting the next one now. It's January 2023. So we don't since the first case from November took 2 months to get all the letters. We're not quite sure if letter number one we get next will be for December or
Hmm.
January. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
maybe it's a 2 month mystery, and that's just how life is.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it might be every 2 months, or maybe they're just behind, and the next one will be in February. Who knows?
Mhm, mhm.
There's
We'll find
only
out.
one way to find out. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Thanks and namaste.
Namaste and good luck.